Brothers and guests, it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker who will deliver the charge to the candidates. Brother Joshua Katz, Central Florida 97, is a high school math teacher in Orange County, Florida at University High School. In his 8 years, he's worked with 9th to 12th grade students in Algebra and Algebra 2. He has been his school's Math Teacher of the Year twice and a 5-time finalist for Teacher of the Year. He serves on the Faculty Advisory Committee, the Student Placement Committee, the School Advisory Committee, and the PTSA. At the district level, he is involved in the Classroom Teachers Association, as a voting delegate for the National Education Association, which was founded by a DU founder, a member of the District Evaluation Committee, and an all-around education activist. Before working in secondary education, Josh spent 10 years working in higher education, as well as the nonprofit world, leading to his role as board chairman of the American Friends of Leave Note, his work-study program from Israel. He has his bachelor's degree in math education, his master's degree in higher education from the University of Central Florida. For the fraternity world, Josh was a leadership consultant for Delta Upsilon, the grad assistant for Greek affairs at the University of Central Florida, a chapter advisor for the DU chapter, and an active volunteer for fraternity and sorority life since 1997. His current passion is discussing education, evidenced by his 2014 TED Talk entitled The Toxic Culture of Education, found on YouTube. This in turn led to his run last year for school board. Though the votes didn't turn out in his way, he was able to gain a voice advocating for students and teachers, which continues inside and outside the classroom. He finished this past school year as Teacher of the Year for University High School. Josh resides in Orlando, Florida with his wife, Rebecca, and his children, Abigail, Madeline, and Jonah. Brothers and guests, it's my distinct pleasure to introduce to you my brother and my friend, Brother Joshua Katz, Central Florida, 97.
Thank you. Daddy, my 5-year-old daughter Madeline asked about a month ago, I didn't know you're the president of Delta Upsilon. So many thoughts ran through my mind. She knows I'm involved in education policy. She knows I ran for school board. She knows I follow local politics. She knows I'm involved with my Israel program, that I'm really involved in teaching and in the teachers union, but I've never been president. So I asked, Madeline, what are you talking about? She said, Daddy, you're the president of Delta Upsilon. I was still confused, but then my 8-year-old daughter, Abigail, joins in. Yeah, Daddy, you're the president. And so I was confused, but I went with it. I started to feel really good about myself. And I said, yeah, I am the president. So finally I asked what they were talking about, and they said, we saw the picture, Daddy. You are the president of Delta Upsilon. And then it hit me. They found a picture of my chapter composite from 1995. Oh yeah, I was the chapter president. So you might be thinking, Josh, they're 5 and 8. They said Delta Upsilon? And I say, yeah, of course, come on, it's me. So I have a tendency to forget that I was ever president of the chapter. And it's not because I'm getting old. It's also not because I was, quite honestly, not that good of a president. I just happened to be lucky. We were a colony when I was elected, so I get to be in the chapter history books as the very first chapter president. Yay, me. I just have a tendency to forget because my time as president was just such a small, small part of my overall Delta Upsilon experience, what I call my DU identity. It was only 1 year. I was young and inexperienced. Like I said, I didn't do that good of a job. Besides, I did way more for the chapter as a general member than I did as president. I was involved in recruitment and in the new member program. I was a proud spokesperson for the chapter on campus. I was involved with our awards program when we became a sweepstakes finalist for the first time. And I was involved at the international level, serving on UGAB. I had an amazing, amazing undergraduate experience, but being president was only a small part of that, so I have a tendency to forget. And still, my overall undergraduate experience is a small part of my Delta Upsilon identity. It was my postgraduate experiences that make up most of who I am as a DU, my DU identity. Now, one of the most significant experiences in my life to this day is my time as a leadership consultant for headquarters. Not only did I travel across all of North America and meet hundreds of brothers and alumni and make amazingly close friends and even recruit future staff members, during that time, I uncovered my soul's connection to Delta Upsilon. I discovered in that time that I'm connected by the deepest fabric of who I am to the past, the present, and the future of Delta Upsilon. I am my fraternity, and my fraternity is me. Now, the moment that opened up this deep connection is kind of a funny story. One day when I was working in the headquarters office to prepare for the Leadership Institute in Jacksonville, I had some downtime. Now, I just finished my first year on the road working with chapters, but since I was really good at working, I had downtime. I needed to fill it. So I went to reach for the first book I could grab just to kill some time, and it was the Ritual book. So for the first time ever, I sat down and read the Ritual book from cover to cover. And then I thought, I shouldn't even have a job as a leadership consultant. In fact, there shouldn't even be a leadership consultant position. So I reflected on my past year working with students and the issues they were facing in the chapters and personally, and I realized that the number one issue we were facing wasn't alcohol, or it wasn't sexual assault, or it wasn't hazing. The number one issue we were facing as chapters and members was reading comprehension, because everything we need as chapters and members is in the Ritual book. So it was then at that moment that my really deep, deep connection to Delta Upsilon began. It was then in that moment that I really understood my membership. You see, it wasn't only about my pledge class or only about my chapter. It wasn't even only about all the chapters in the fraternity. I realized from the Ritual book how large my membership actually was. My membership in Delta Upsilon transcends time. I am connected to the past, the present, and the future. At that moment, I could truly, wholeheartedly, and honestly claim that all the values of Delta Upsilon accorded entirely with my own views. I became a walking embodiment of the fraternity, but my DU identity still was not yet whole. Things got spiritual. My time on staff afforded me the opportunity to go to Israel for a work-study program. Now, I was Jewish, but I didn't know much about what that meant. So I decided to go to Israel. And how? Because of my time on staff, I was able to get a grant from the Delta Upsilon Educational Foundation, and I went to Israel. Now, I thought that my leadership consultant experience was life-altering enough. I had no idea what was about to happen to me in Israel. And that, my friends, is too long of a story for our purposes here, so I'll spare you and sum it up this way. When I returned from Israel, my friend Brad John, who worked with me at the headquarters staff, called my house to see how the trip went. I was there for 3 months. When he called, I wasn't home, so he ended up speaking to my dad. And when he asked, hey, how was Josh's trip? My dad said, I'm not entirely sure, but he's a hell of a lot more Jewish. So guess what? My Jewish identity is thanks to Delta Upsilon. But check this out. It gets even better. In Israel, I learned something kind of neat. Now, if you don't know, Jews refer to the first 5 books of the Bible as the Torah, and we write it on a giant scroll. So if you take that giant scroll and you unwrap it completely, just let it all out, in the very center of the scroll is a piece of text that reads, Tzedek, Tzedek Tir Dov. And what does that mean? Justice justice shall you pursue. Talk about resonating at the deepest level of who I was. I am DU, and DU is me. It is who I am. But still, my DU identity continues to strengthen. Because after that, I met my wife. Thank you to Delta Upsilon for making me the man she met. In fact, she'll say I'm actually married to the fraternity. She's just the mistress. But Delta Upsilon still informs my role as a husband. DU is guiding my role as a father. DU is guiding my role as a teacher. And DU continues to guide me as a person. Everything in my life since I joined Delta Upsilon is because I joined Delta Upsilon. So that's worth repeating. Everything I have in my life since joining is because I joined. So as you can imagine, my DU identity is quite strong. It makes me feel, well, in light of all the movies recently, it makes me feel like a superhero, like I have a mission. The battles of justice are infinite, and her champions are ever needed to serve her cause, both in college and in the world beyond. It's like our superhero mission. Delta Upsilon makes us all superheroes. And don't we have fights on our hands? Brothers, pay attention to the world around us. We have fights about justice. We have fights about race. And we have fights about flags. We have fights about love. We have fights about how we treat men and women and animals. We have fights about education, which is my fight. We have fights about equity, about global stability, about economics. We have fights about freedom. All around us, we are being called to be the DU superheroes we are. And we need to act. We must speak up. We must speak up about justice. We must speak up about hatred and about racism and about sexual assault. We must speak up about poverty and hunger. The battles of justice are infinite. And yesterday, when we were asked how many of us vote in primary elections, it was a sad response. We must be voting every election in every cycle because the battles of justice are infinite and they are here right now. And it is up to us, we who have purpose, we who have privilege, and we who have power. We need to fight these fights because we are Delta Upsilon. It is our mission. It is our motto. DU makes us all superheroes to fight for justice in all that we do. And your time worrying about rush t-shirts and dances and social calendars is going to be short, no matter how many minutes you waste debating that in your chapter meetings. The true issues of the world, the true issues of humanity are out there right now for us. And Delta Upsilon is called to fight. And why? Because we are non-secret. It's our duty and responsibility to fight for justice. That's what non-secrecy means. It makes it our duty and our responsibility, like no one else's. And you know, like all good superheroes, we have a uniform. It's our badge. I wear mine to work every day to remind me why it is that I teach. We have great stories of heroism in our superhero records, from James Garfield's commitment to merit, which cost him his life, to the Global Service Initiative. We have brothers who are helping to build small businesses in Asia and all around the world. We have brothers who are feeding the homeless here in the United States and in Canada. Delta Upsilon is doing the work of justice, and we should. But the battles are infinite, and we need to be recruiting new superheroes each day, like the three of you before us today. To the three of you and to all the brothers I have not yet met, I want to tell you something. I got it from my friend, fellow superhero, and DU brother Craig Sowell, it conveys the meaning of our membership. I may not know you, but I know who you are. When you recite the oath of initiation, you're not only entering into membership right now, you are making an eternal commitment that transcends time, the past, the present, and the future. You are committing to promote friendship, to diffuse culture liberally, to develop character in yourselves and to others around you, and to advance justice in all the areas she needs you, because, my friends, my brothers, pay attention. Read what is going on around you. Justice needs us. So, because of your presence here, I can say that I may not know you, but I know who you are. You are a superhero. You are committed to fighting for justice. You have a Delta Upsilon identity. Let it help you make the world a better place. And I dare you to let your DU identity do for you what mine has done for me, and what it will continue to do for me, and what it will continue to do for the world. Mazel tov to you, and thank you.